I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
The Wrestling Life.
Hey everybody, it's the Wrestling Life. It's episode 402. We're into March of 2025 now. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
Liam, we have so much to talk about this week.
And as always, so many things we can't talk about on the first and only wrestling podcast.
We're really on the road to WrestleMania now, as WWE's last PLE before Mania was held this past weekend. AEW is on the road to Revolution. They have their pay-per-view this weekend. We will post-view Elimination Chamber. We will preview Revolution, and we'll talk about the biggest news of the week: John Cena turning heel. John Cena has joined The Rock and Travis Scott in a trio. John Cena won the Elimination Chamber and then turned heel on Cody Rhodes, aligning with The Rock, the final boss, and Travis Scott, who lit either a marijuana cigarette or some sage or both in the ring. His gimmick is he smokes weed, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All of this is secondary to John Cena turning heel. I wouldn't have turned John Cena heel. That said, the angle was really well done. John Cena is going to wrestle Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. We have a heel face dynamic now. And what'd you think?
Yeah, it was it feels like the biggest thing they could have done. As far as like what are you gonna do? I'm not saying it was the best idea for reasons we can get into in a moment here, but as far as like the one that was going to create the most interest, the most buzz, yeah, this is it. At least on a short term basis, is having John Cena be a bad guy, which he hasn't been for most of the time he's been known to the larger public, at least. Obviously, he was a heel when he first came into the company, but that was 20 plus years ago. So, yeah, it was big, it was shocking. Um, it was interesting having Mr. Scott in the ring during it. I don't understand that. But they're trying to recreate like John is Steve Austin and Rock is Vince. And we just had our Mania 17 moment. So let's hope Cody doesn't go off to film the Scorpion King and leave us with no baby faces anytime soon.
I wouldn't have turned John heel because I think there's a lot more money in selling John Cena retirement tour merchandise and selling plushies to kids over the next year here than there is in turning him for a wrestling angle and throwing away 20 years of goodwill and Make-A-Wish appearances and everything like that just to tell a wrestling story. I don't know, man. It seems like you're doing way too much here. Um, I feel like you can. It would be more of a challenge to tell a Cody Rhodes John Cena babyface match story,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it wouldn't have done as well at the box office, so to speak, but their pay-per-view rights fees are set. Their television rights fees are set. WrestleMania is going to sell out, and it would have sold out anyway. Um, I don't know, man. And I guess the hook for John Cena's retirement tour now is come see John Cena the heel instead of come see John Cena in your town one more time. Uh, Seems short-sighted to me and unnecessary. But Dwayne wanted to do it. The implication this week was that Dwayne wanted Cody to turn heel, and Cody said no. So Dwayne asked John to turn heel, and John said yes. And we're off to the races here. I don't hate the idea, but I think it's I think it's short-sighted and I wouldn't have done it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two ways to look at this right now. It's like, I mean, we're kind of looking at it both from a creative process and a business standard. You know, business wise, this all looks like appropriate business and such. Um, like just as an idea, it's like, yeah, if I were playing WWE Universe mode on 2K or one of those wrestling manager sim games, yeah, I'd probably turn John Cena heel at some point just to see what happens in the imaginary world. Because it is interesting. It is something we haven't seen him do. Because when he was a heel before, we didn't have anything to compare it to. Um, so like it is new ground that he is potentially breaking for the first time in 20 plus years of seeing him. Obviously, he hasn't been a full timer in 6 or 7 years now, but um yeah, so like on that hand, like, oh, it is kind of exciting to be like the idea of how different is it going to be? Is he gonna change his gear? Is he gonna shave his head? Is he gonna, whatever? Like, I assume not because he's still got movies to do. But yeah, I think from that perspective, it is exciting, and it is wild to just be like, wow, they pulled the trigger. Like, like after, and the thing is that all of the fans who always wished he would turn heel are are gone. Like,
Yeah.
or they like the show enough now that they see him as an all-time legend. Like, they were either beaten into submission or they don't watch anymore. And like a new generation of fans has taken over that spot. So it's like John, there wasn't a lot of people clamoring. They don't sing John Cena sucks when he comes to the ring anymore. They don't boo him out of every arena he's in. Like, so it is strange. And like I said, I think they have a tightrope to walk, given that he has declared this his final year. Uh, it is strange that it isn't just a baby kissing, handshaking retirement tour where you do a new t-shirt with the town he's in that night's name, every night. Um, and he just sells a bunch of merchandise and, is you get to do last time in every city, last time at every pay-per-view name for a whole year. It's interesting. Like I said, there's interesting stuff they can do with it. And it's interesting just because we don't really have a reference point for what Cena as a heel can be in after he's been this mega baby face for 20 years. So it's exciting. It is interesting, but it does also, you immediately raise the point, well, how do you get themselves out of it? Because he can't retire as a heel. So it's like he's going to be a heel for 9 months and then he's going to turn back babyface in like Survivor Series this year, or like how long do you keep him a heel? Do you do the fake out, the pull the parachute Shawn Michaels SummerSlam '05 heel turn where he's a heel for 3 weeks and then shakes Cody's hand after WrestleMania and he's a babyface again? That would be lame. So I don't know. I think how it becomes an interesting game of like, how do they parachute out of this the closer you get to his final matches, where I assume you want him to be a babyface. So yeah, like I said, it's an interesting little puzzle they've created for themselves. But in the immediate, yeah, I'm more interested in this WrestleMania, I guess, now with Cody and Cena. So if we strictly put on the fan hat, or the storyline critique part of it, it's like, yeah, it could be interesting to do that, just because I don't have faith that they would have made a compelling story out of babyface Cody versus babyface John. I don't think the people currently booking that show have an ability to make compelling babyface matches. So yeah, I think this is probably in the short term the most interesting thing they could have done. But you're right, it does create a lot of longer term potential issues. And hey, as I already alluded to, Steve Austin says he never should have turned heel. So I don't know. It's an apples to oranges comparison, maybe, but the most famous example of this happening in the last 20 some years is Steve Austin, and Steve Austin's like, shouldn't have done that. It was a bad idea. So I don't know.
Travis Scott also Oh, had to make sure I wasn't muted. Travis Scott also apparently popped Cody's eardrum. Travis Scott has apparently been doing wrestling training, but no one's smartened him up yet because he allegedly busted Cody's eardrum. Just he just he just slapped him. He was paintbrushing the guy and smacked the hell out of his ear.
Yeah, it was
like,
wild.
like there's stuff you can whack a guy as hard as you want in the chest. You
Hmm.
know, you probably shouldn't be paintbrushing a guy's head for real. You
I
know,
was gonna say your first offensive move ever in a wrestling ring probably shouldn't be a strike to the head. Feels like a lot could go wrong with that. But yeah, that was a weird that part of it. What we are left with, like I said, the kernel of the idea of Cena turning heel is interesting. The aftermath being that it is now John Cena aligned with Ketamine Dwayne and Travis Scott is odd and a bit confusing.
is
Uh,
is Dwayne gonna do a match? Do you think? He gets like $5 million every time he does a match, and it's not like he doesn't get it right away. It's like it invests months later as stock. But is he just does he want to do a match? I don't know.
maybe. Like I don't know what the match is though, but like I guess you could do him and John and Travis against Cody and two partners on night one, and um, or later in the year if he doesn't want to do the match right now for whatever reason. I don't know if I think he's currently filming the live action Moana, maybe if that I don't know if that's still going on or not, but um, yeah, maybe because he did talk about like, oh, it's a real possibility that Travis Scott could get in the ring. And it's like, well, you brought Travis Scott in, so it would be weird if like Dwayne Johnson, famous professional wrestler, is managing Travis Scott in a match. So yeah, maybe Dwayne comes in, does a six man. All he has to do is those stops and a couple right hands and a big boot and a leg drop, and you call it a day. Like maybe that's more doable for him than even a tag or certainly a singles match, which I think is by his own claim is just not going to happen ever. So
Yeah. Well, how about we do those three and we put Punk, Roman, and Cody on the other side, and we keep Roman the hell out of the Seth Rollins Cody CM Punk feud, and Rollins and Punk can still wrestle each other on night two. And in a single, and we put Reigns and I mean, no, I'm just fantasy booking, but
sure.
um, like I think that makes sense. Secret plan. Has this been a secret plan for months?
No. No,
So there are
when
people.
Dwayne sorry.
Go ahead.
When Dwayne came back, he stood on the stage and he menaced Cody and Roman. And then he went backstage on his Instagram and spent 20 minutes talking about the Bloodline Civil War and how he wasn't sure who he was siding with yet. And then he came back and has not addressed. I guess he handed Roman the necklace on the Netflix Raw. But otherwise, Dwayne has not at all addressed any of the Bloodline stuff. He has moved on. He's just focused on Cody now. So uh I don't think this was planned 6 months ago.
Okay. There's people on social media that are acting like detectives and like piecing together screenshots from the time The Rock showed up at that pay-per-view in Atlanta, and then Cody Rhodes. I don't know. I don't feel like you should have to be a forensic detective to figure out if this is planned or not.
No. Now, do I think the narrative might become that this was always the plan? Absolutely. They might do a whole documentary about how this was the plan, like they did last year. But I don't get the feeling anyone knew what Dwayne wanted or didn't want to do at any given point. Least of all Dwayne himself, perhaps. So yeah, I don't get that. I mean, like you can connect things like, oh, Cena not having to qualify for the chamber. It's like, yeah, maybe by the end of the Rumble they knew that they were going this way, but I don't think in October of last year or September of last year, whenever that was, that that we had any inkling, because we never know. We never know when Dwayne's going to parachute in and upset the chessboard.
Chamber match itself was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good. We talked about a lot of big stars. Crowd was super into it. They were just molten for Punk and Cena interacting, which is funny because I don't think of either of those guys as like one of the others' all-time rivals. Like they had the very famous match together, which is an all-time great. But I didn't necessarily think like, oh, people would be clamoring to see Punk and Cena interact again. But it was cool and it was fun. And yeah, I mean, it feels like we paired everyone off basically by the end of that match. It's like Punk and Seth and probably Roman are doing something based on what they did with the finish there of Seth curse stopping him, and then you can do like we said, Drew and Lonnie Donegan in there, and then I don't know, Logan Paul's gonna wrestle whoever. Who cares,
AJ Styles is
right? Well,
match,
AJ's
yeah.
busy with carrying Cross right now, so
Well, one of those guys is on TV every week, and the other one isn't. So he's gonna feud with somebody. Well, AJ Styles is calling out Logan Paul on Raw this week, so I assume that means they're feuding.
they are. I just like to point out the carrying
Uh,
Cross is just hanging around, just hanging around on TV all
he
the time.
60% of Raw is Jackie Redmond interviewing Karrion Cross. So you're not wrong about that. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens had a barn burner unsanctioned match.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
yeah, it was fun. I don't know. It didn't it didn't stand out as like an all-time great between these two, but they are kind of incapable of having like less than a 3.5 star match with each other. So it was a lot of fun and the crowd was molten for it. So um yeah, I don't know. I feel like we talked about this more last week. Wasn't really super jazzed of them getting getting this feud back on the rails already, but hey, they did it and it was a fun match, which is really all you can ask for, I guess.
So Kevin walked out of there, and Kevin's the one going forward that looks figured in, and Sami Zayn is storyline injured. I don't know if he'll be. We still have 6 weeks before Mania, so maybe they'll just reheat this again before Mania. There was a phenomenon, and I'm not quite sure if it was. I can't remember if it was in the main event, men's chamber match, or maybe the women's chamber match that began the show. The, the crowd was just on their feet and making no noise. Like, I really don't understand wrestling crowds anymore because people they pay more money than they've ever paid to go to these shows, and they stand up and block everyone's view, and but they make no noise. It's not like they're so moved by the action that they jump out of their seats and are rabidly making noise. Maybe there were points throughout the main event and the Kevin and Sami match where they were making noise, but I did notice at one point, wow, everyone's on their feet. No one is making any noise. It's bizarre.
Look, they were happy to see Randall back, so there's that at least.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That's yeah, maybe that's Kevin's direction for me either. And maybe Sammy's gonna take a couple months off. Not sure because no one reports any news anymore anywhere. We just The state of wrestling reporting has never been worse. Uh, women's tag, Trish and Tiffany beat Nia and Candice. I have low hopes. They were exceeded. So it's nice to go in with low expectations and have them met. I thought Trish looked better in the ring than she did at Royal Rumble. I
Mm-hmm.
think they practiced this match all week at the Performance Center in Orlando, so maybe that's why. And Nia had one of her better nights. And yeah, there you go. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe just because you put it in my my head that she was a step behind at the Rumble. I kind of thought this was going to be bad, like, um, and it wasn't. It was good, and again, everybody worked well, and hey, if you gotta practice it or plan out every single move for it to be good, I think that's fine, generally speaking. So it was fine and it was a lot of fun, which is like it was a weird match to put together, but it's Trish in Toronto, and it
Yes.
was something for Tiffy to do while she gets ready to do her the substance feud with Charlotte.
Oh boy. Oh boy. The floor for that match could not be any lower. The ceiling could not be any higher.
Well, you know it's going to get a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah, sure is.
Even if it's not allotted a lot of time, it's going to get a lot of time.
Yeah,
Because once you're in the ring, they can't stop you. And Charlotte understands this.
yes, yes. Bianca Belair won the women's elimination chamber at the beginning of the elimination chamber program, and at least for the moment, will be facing Io Sky at WrestleMania. Io Sky beat Rhea Ripley. She just beat her on Monday Night Raw to win the women's world title and become a Grand Slam champion, 3 singles titles and a tag title. And only Asuka, Rhea Ripley, the Four Horsewomen, and Io Sky now have done that in WWE. So good for her. And I think Io and Bianca would be a much better match than Rhea
Mm-hmm.
and Bianca one on one. Um, just think Io's a much better wrestler and a much better athlete than Rhea, but I'm probably in the minority there. And I suspect Rhea ends up back in this as a triple threat because it's been pushed as an unbeatable monster for several years. And to not have a WrestleMania match at this point would be odd. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's like an injury we don't know about, which I don't think there is. Yeah, it would be bizarre. Or unless there's, like I said, there's not an obvious culprit of like, oh, there's another person, or at least that isn't a match they haven't done. Like if they hadn't done her and Nia like 2 months ago on a Saturday night's main event, no one remembers. I would have been like, oh, maybe they're gonna do like that as a special attraction match or something. Or unless you have like a legend coming back, but I don't get the sense that like they're gonna pivot and have like Trish versus Rhea or something on the show. So the most likely path seems to be a three-way, which hey, good for Io for just being, I guess, such a good worker that she worked her way into the into what you would argue would be a much bigger singles match. Or the way you could look at it is it lets them press the snooze button on having to let a winner or having to pick who they would put over between Bianca and Rhea, and it lets somebody pin Io to win the title at Mania. There's also that possibility. But either way, she got herself into this spot because she's a really good wrestler. So yeah, it's fine. I was genuinely shocked. I also think it kind of works to just, again, it's more a pro wrestling idea than a modern like sports entertainment business idea. But it's like, yeah, make people like question if you're doing a random title match on a Raw 3 weeks or 6 weeks before pay-per-view that the champion could lose the belt on this show. Like that's probably a good thing to put in people's minds for the next little while as you become more and more of a TV business with every new rights fee you get. You should do title changes on TV from time to time just to keep people like aware that it could happen.
One of the TKO executives was speaking to the media this week and was like, "We are keen to re-up our PLE deal with Peacock, and Peacock is also very keen to re-up with us." I just assumed it was a given that the pay-per-views are going to be going to Netflix next year, and in North America, it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case, which I thought was interesting. Did that set off any bells in your head as it did for me? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, to my understanding, pretty much everywhere else in the world, everything is on Netflix. Like Raw, NXT, SmackDown, all the pay-per-views, whatever back catalog is currently available that they've bothered to put up on international Netflix. Like that is the whole thing now. So I just assumed they already did that everywhere else in the world, so they'll do that here too, or at least there's an expectation that they'll do that too here when the Peacock deal's up. But hey, I mean, maybe there's a feeling of like it allows them to stay a little more diversified. Obviously, they would still have SmackDown on USA, so they'd still have a one pot boiling in the NBC Universal pot and the Saturday night main events and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with them staying on Peacock because hey, all of it's already there, and if we start over, we know what happened when they shut down the network and switched over to Peacock. Like, where are you going to get your WCW Saturday nights from 1992 if they switch to Netflix? So yeah, I think it would be it is interesting, like I said, that they're not just going to do what they've done seemingly everywhere else in the world, or at least are talking like they aren't. But yeah, we'll see if that's the truth, or if that's more you know a way to try to squeeze an extra couple $1 million out of Netflix when they come to the table to try to get the pay-per-views and stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% certain that everyone was being completely sincere, but um, I enjoy all of the archive content, and when I'm trying to sleep, I just put on all WCW stuff during the day, and yeah, there you go. Uh, it's Clash of the Champions, where called by Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. Jim Ross is the lead play-by-play guy, Tony Schiavone as the color commentator. And they do a storyline where Lex Luger injures Sting after Medusa tries to seduce Sting or something very risque for the time. And a good portion of this 2-hour program on TBS is Jim Ross on a telephone and Eric Bischoff appearing via satellite or via telephone, which is just very clearly in another section of the arena because you can like hear the ambient noise from the arena in the background. Anyway, very cheesy. Very cheesy. Boy, young Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone hated each other's guts.
Oh man, it's Bill Watts' guy and Jim Hurd's guy. Like, and now they're both like fighting to stay alive as the next generation after that's coming in. So it's like, oh yeah, there's there's some jockeying. There's some jockeying going on.
It's really a lot of fun. Yeah, so I hope they stay on Peacock. Is what I'm trying to say. AEW Revolution coming up this weekend. Jon Moxley versus the Rated R Superstar Cope for the AEW World Championship. I assume that's going to main event this program. I assume it should definitely not main event this program, and either Kenny Omega should go on last, or the thing that probably is going to have the most heat is Tony Storm and Mariah May if they do a bloodbath, and I presume that they're going to do a bloodbath. But Jon Moxley and the Rated R Superstar Cope We picked off the Death Riders one by one, and now all that's left is the head of a snake, John Moxley. You know, if you wanted to get out of this Death Riders thing, here's your chance. I have no faith that they want to get out of this Death Riders thing,
Well,
but now here's your chance.
yeah, there's two ways. One is Cope wins the world title. The other is that Christian still has that clipboard, the clipboard in the bank. So, and which to be clear, neither the Rated R Superstar Cope nor Christian, I think, should be a world champion in 2025. But if, like you said, if the important thing is to get the world title off of John Moxley and kill the Death Riders and whatever has to be collateral damage for a month or two until you can right the ship and figure out what you're doing long term, if you don't have that worked out already, maybe worth it. Maybe worth it so we don't have to see the Death Riders for a while, at least in this current iteration. I don't know.
Only problem with this plan, the only flaw, the one and only flaw, the the Death Riders are still the trios champions.
Ah,
and I think Marina Shafir is still feuding with Will Nightingale. But we could drop either of those things on on a dime, and no one would be any the wiser.
yeah. I mean, you could still have like, wait, who's Pac? I was like, who's the third Death Rider? That's the trios champ because that wasn't Mox. I forgot that quickly. Yeah, I mean, I guess Pac and Wheeler and Claudio could still be a trio at some point when they come back, but just maybe don't call them the Death Riders. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't think we're done with it yet. I think if anything, they'll come screaming back with the vengeance. And then, as we talked about off the air, whether it was obvious to everyone or not, Jay White is going to turn on the Rated R Superstar Cope here very soon, probably on Sunday, I feel. So whether or not, and I guess the question would be, is he doing this and he's going to join the Death Riders, which would be, I think, a mistake. Or is he just doing it because he hates Cope and he hates how he got little brothered by Cope for the last 2 months when he was the one trying to take down the Death Riders, like kind of doing a Kevin Owens thing where he's like, well, this was kind of my thing. And then I got like turned into Robin the Boy Wonder to the Rated R Superstar Cope's Batman. And
Yes.
I don't like that. So I'm going to beat you up and maybe I'll bring the Billy Gunn's dickhead sons along with me to restart the Bang Bang Gang or something as heels again.
I don't like any of it. I don't like Christian's been carrying around that dented clipboard for feels like 3 years.
Mhm.
Why is Christian still running around with a guaranteed title shot? No one remembers. Uh,
They did that at
Jay
All
White.
In. He won that at All In.
So that's August. Yeah,
August,
the end
yeah.
of August.
Yeah. So,
Why does it feel so much longer?
I mean, that's a long time. That's like 6 months, 7 months.
It feels exponentially longer than that. I don't like John Moxley keeping the title. I don't like Cope taking the title. I don't like Jay White and Cope as a feud. I don't like John Moxley and Ricochet or John Moxley and Swerve uh as the next world title program because there's a number one contender match at Revolution with
Yeah.
Swerve against Ricochet and the winner is next in line. So we know that whoever walks out of that or whoever loses that world title match isn't getting an immediate rematch at least. They could still end up well, I think we're into the portion of the calendar where they have a pay-per-view every month for a while now though, because there's Dynasty and then Double or Nothing and then the Forbidden Door back to back to back. So I don't think we're gonna get a world title shot on TV in between. So I think Moxley keeps it, and I think Moxley and Swerve? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, Swerve's been talking about needing to go back and get the title back all his promos for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, and I mean, within the world of AEW, even if this current version of Mox is not anyone's cup of tea, I mean, Mox versus Swerve is not a match they've done before, at least not this level of Swerve versus Mox. Maybe they did it on the TV somewhere and I've forgotten, but um, so yeah, this is like that's a big match for them to make, and Swerve being on a quest to win the world title for the first time since he lost it 7 months ago. Yeah, I mean, they've also had MJF cut promos about wanting to get after the title and Hangman wanting to get after the title. So there's ways you can go. But like you said, since we know they've called the Ricochet Swerve match the number one contenders match. So of those two, uh, certainly would make more sense for Swerve to win if Mox is keeping the title. Um, and because Ricochet already beat Swerve on TV once, and I won't allow them to let Swerve lose to Ricochet twice. So I have to assume Swerve is winning that match.
Also, Evolution, Takeshita defending the international championship against Kenny Omega. Um, I think the bar is pretty high for this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be incredible, I think. And yeah, good luck good luck to these guys having to live up to their own hype. I you know it was funny they didn't actually have either of them appear live on Dynamite. They just did that video package, which was just a good video package. But I was like, they're reminding you of all this stuff where like at the first All In, well, second All In technically, the first Stadium All In, Takeshita beats him in the 6-man, and then the following week at All Out, he beats him in a singles, and it's like, man, that was like 2 years ago. What did they do with Takeshita for a year and a half before he won this belt? And the answer, I think you'll find, is not a lot. But yeah, at least they reminded everyone that these guys have met before and that Takeshita's beaten him before and that they have history going back to DDT and everything. So it's going to probably have close to the most heat of anything on the show if I had to guess. And yeah, I mean Kenny had a tremendous match with Gabe Kidd of all people in New Japan earlier this year, so you'd think him and Takeshita should be able to have a very good match. But I think, like you said, the bar is it is expected to be like minimum great, maximum, one of the best matches of the year, if not the last like 10 years. So good luck, guys.
Tony Storm and Mariah May, Hollywood Ending. This is officially False Count Anywhere, and I can't remember from any of the promos whether it's no DQ also. It would be very weird to do False Count Anywhere and not do no DQ also, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I feel like she said no disqualifications at one point, but they may not.
I feel like I did too.
That might have been in one of Tony's monologues that she's given lately. But yeah, I mean, that sounds to me like they can do crazy stunt, blood, barbed wire, thumbtacks, whatever. We haven't had a women's bloodbath on AEW television in a while, and on the other hand, it also allows them, if it's Falls Count Anywhere, to perhaps go backstage and you could do some cinematic stuff, which is if it were any other wrestling match, I would say is a mistake, but it's these two, and so you almost have to do like a backlot brawl or something at some point, or act out a scene from All About Eve or whatever the movie this was originally based on that RJ City came up with. So like you almost have to do some wacky cinematic match stuff, I feel like, in the middle, and then you end with whatever your big stunt bump is to end the match.
We mentioned Swerve and Ricochet in a number one contenders match. There's Mercedes versus Momo Watanabe for the TBS championship. Mercedes did the thing in her promo this week on Dynamite when she was talking to Banana Pudding Renee Paquette that What? She Renee I said Renee, I'm pretty sure I said Renee Paquette. Um where she said, "Yeah, I wrestled Momo. I already beat her." Like, okay, well, then why are we having this match?
Good question. Uh, Officially, it's because Momo won a four-way on the pre-show at Wrestle Kingdom, I believe.
Yeah, the International Women's Cup at Wrestle Dynasty.
Of course, of course. How could I forget? So, I mean,
It's very prestigious.
Renee could have maybe at least said that. Like, you could have the mean gene of her era interject and point out that the heel is lying or talking down her opponent intentionally. But it seems that we're already on the road to, ooh, and I assume this isn't happening until All In, but to uh, Mercedes and Athena, because Billy Starks has suddenly been on Dynamite and Collision the last week or so, interacting with Mercedes. So I feel like you do that match, and Mercedes probably brutalizes and beats Billy once or twice, and then Athena finally emerges from the dark swamp that is Ring of Honor and to defend her minion against Mercedes, and you set up the belt collector match with Athena putting her ROH title that she's had for like 4 years on the line against Mercedes. Point being, it feels like everyone has already moved on from this before it happened, which isn't a great sign. But hey, I'm sure they'll have a very good match, and hopefully they can get the crowd involved.
Yeah, that's the just looking at everything on this show, I don't see another obvious uh popcorn break match.
Mm.
So I don't love their chances. But uh yeah, tag team titles, the Road Warriors, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin will be defending, oh sorry, the Hurt Syndicate will be defending against the Outrunners, Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum, two of the youngest men alive and two of the all-time and then the bell ring wrestlers.
They haven't figured out how to do the shtick while having actual wrestling matches, at least not in an entertaining way. So
Yeah.
there's a real
Yeah.
Breezango quality to this, except I don't think either of these guys are even on the Breezango level of in ring ability. So
No, not so much. The gimmick is fun. It's a fun comedy gimmick.
yeah,
Like,
I mean they got themselves on ESPN this little like last week, and they get a big pop every time they come out. So sure, put this on, let it go 4 minutes, and it's fine.
the Hurt Syndicate, I want them to squash them so in 90 seconds. That I think that would be appropriate.
I mean, that's kind of what I would do. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they've run through Private Party and the Ass Boys and other single star, and Lashley like beat Swerve his first night in the company. So like, I don't really think they should have a lot of trouble beating the Outrunners. Um, but maybe in some people's minds, oh well, that's why it makes a great story to have the Outrunners last a long time. I disagree. I think it would be better
Yeah.
if Shelton and Bodacious Bob just crushed them, gave them the Doomsday device, pinned them.
Yep. Yep. MJF and Hangman Page. This thing has gotten a lot of TV time on Dynamite. And I don't know, is it the thing with the third most heat on the show, maybe? Fourth?
It's in the right. I think the first like face to face promo they had together got like a really really good reaction. I thought, and then they've like, as sometimes happens when you just have too much time between pay per views, we start thinking we need to get more creative than we do.
Mhm.
And so we started like doing things like involving Hangman Adam Page's dad, Christopher Daniels,
Yeah.
in storylines, and making it this like meta thing about how MJF hates that wrestling like internet fans like Hangman more than him, or the AEW fans are willing to cheer Hangman even though he's done all these terrible things where where they boo MJF. I don't know. Like they tried to make it make sense within the context of the wrestling show. It's not completely, we're shooting here, brother, but it's like it's in that kind of ballpark of like when he's talking about like, oh, Hangman's the main, he's not the main character, I'm the main character. It's like, yeah, that's the thing. People like a certain subset of Twitter fans, AEW fans say that Hangman is the main character of the company, and it's like, okay, so that being in there is like MJF trying to throw that into the story. It's like it does. I don't hate it. I don't hate anything that they've done other than maybe involving Hangman Page's dad, Christopher Daniels. But it's fine. It's a singles match that they have surprisingly mostly stayed away from for 5+ years that the company has been around. So it's fresh in that way. And I mean, coming off of that Adam Cole thing, MJF really desperately needed a fresh, exciting opponent, and the whole Jeff Jarrett thing wasn't working. So here we are.
Jeff's just gone.
Yeah, he got his ass beat and bloodied, and he gone. Maybe he comes back and costs MJF this match here. Because you still got to have Jeff challenge for the title at some point, because they said they were going to do that. It would be weird if they completely dropped that.
Yeah. I don't know. Okada defending the Continental Championship against Brody King. Okada's gimmick is a guy who says bitch
Mm-hmm.
and wealthy wrestler, Japanese legend who's coasting. Have I got that right?
Seems that way.
Where is the lie?
Yeah, I mean, everybody says your character is just you turned up to 11, the best characters. And Okada is playing a man who is mostly checked out, but he is contractually obligated to continue wrestling X amount of times a year. So that's kind of his character on TV too. I don't know. The Bucks might be back soon. I don't know where Jungle Jack is at these days, but feels like they should probably do something to blow off that version of the Elite at some point if they've all gone their separate ways. Or they could just never mention it again. I'd also be okay with that.
Where have any of those dweeb theater kids been?
The Bucks won and lost the IWGP tag titles between January and February. So they're healthy.
Where are they?
Just chilling, man.
It's unbelievable. Great for them.
Yeah.
Gotta be good for them.
Yeah, I thought they were going to win the IWGP belts and like have a bit of a run in New Japan, like maybe leading up to like a Forbidden Door or something. Like that was going to be the new thing. They, like New Japan teams would come to America and try to get the tag titles back and keep failing, and then eventually they lose them back to Naito and Hiromu or whoever, and that would be the end of it. And it was like, no, they in their first defense they just lost them to Naito and Hiromu, and now they're not on New Japan shows or AEW shows. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's up with that. And then yeah, I think Jungle Jack wrestled on a New Japan show, but he hasn't been around since he lost the TNT belt to Danny Garcia, who is now in a trios feud. So there's a lot of intermoving parts in the AEW tapestry currently that are just a lot of like, don't know where that guy's been, don't know what that guy's up to. Is he hurt? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the result of it all is that Okada is like, he's on TV even less now because he's not like standing around in a suit cheesing at the camera when the Bucks are in the ring or whatever.
Right.
So it's like he just like pops up in a backstage segment, bumps into someone, calls them a bitch, and then they make the match for the next week's Dynamite or Collision or in this case, pay-per-view. So I don't know. Hell of a gig if you can get it, I guess.
It's coveted free agent, and it's like he has the third or fourth most important singles belt. His
Mhm.
gimmick is he's stealing money.
It's like, I mean, I think people think that they're gonna do him and Kenny at All In, and maybe Kenny wins Takeshita's belt and you unify two of these useless mid card titles. Great, feel free to do that. But in the meantime, if you're gonna build up to him and Kenny, shouldn't he also be doing like equally important things? Because like Kenny's in like he's feuding with like 12 guys. He's talking about wanting to be a champion again. Like he's like on this quest to, to reclaim his top guy status. And Okada's just like, yeah, I guess I'll wrestle Buddy Murphy if I have to. This sucks. He's the Jay Cutler of AEW. Like he's being paid millions of dollars and he just hates having to actually do his job. At least that's the television character currently.
Damnedest thing I ever saw. The Young Bucks are executives in the company that they helped found, and they never show up.
Yeah.
They're rarely around. It's unbelievable.
I thought when they left, it was because somebody was hurt. Like I think Matt or somebody was really banged up when they dropped the titles to Private Party. But they've wrestled twice at least since then. So I don't know, man.
I assumed they were just going home for the holidays.
I think that's what they said on television. It was like the middle of October, and they're like, "We're going home for the holidays."
I thought that was a shoot. Boys, if you're listening, get in touch with me, okay? Like as our friend Mike pointed out, I think they listen because as far as I know, I'm the only one that has ever asked the question in these specific words. Are the Young Bucks washed? And they responded in an interview with that exact phrasing. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. If you guys are listening, look, we don't have to be friends. Just say hi,
Tell us where you've been. You don't
Where
have to tell
are
us
you?
like your creative plans.
No.
It's just like, are you healthy? Is everyone okay? Did Nick fall in a lake?
Did you just go home for the holidays?
Right. Just that's all. Yes or no. One word answer. It's fine.
That's it.
Did
That's
you
all
go
I'm
home
asking.
for the holidays?
Yes. You could just do it in an emoji. You
And
just
while
send me a Christmas wreath.
and while we're requesting people that definitely listen to the show to reach out to us, Paul Levesque, if you could let me know if I got Paul Ellering fired, I would like to know. Because the timing on that.
It's like 4 hours later, the guy's gone. It's like, oh, they've already done all the cuts. Okay. Oh, and also Paul Ellering. It's like, oh, huh. They also realized that they hired him. Huh.
Darndest thing.
Weird. Back to AEW Revolution, which is this Sunday. Last, it's hard to say what the last match announced, but Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage match is a main card bout, and Kyle Fletcher took his shirt off, and I don't know what he thinks his character is. I appreciate what he's trying to do, I think, which is like develop a persona for himself, and
sure,
it's kind of like Randy Orton 2004, but modern, kind of. I don't know. I get a lot of Randy Orton vibes.
Yeah, I think the buzz cut and the sleeve tattoo. It's a lot of that. But no, to your point, when he first turned, he looked like Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
Like he had the floppy blonde hair. He wrestled like Will Ospreay. He had similar gear to Will Ospreay. And it was like, okay, well, if you hate this guy, and also just like traditionally the next big star is usually not a carbon copy, either cosmetically or like content wise, of the previous guy. So if
Right.
we're hitching our wagon to Kyle Fletcher as like a big star of the future for this company, um, he's done the right things as far as he's changed up his look. He's cutting bad guy promos, and he's wrestling.
Started taking a lot of
I was
supplements.
gonna say he has put on a lot of muscle. He's both jacked and cut. One of those guys.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, it's yeah. So he is doing the things you should do if you are trying to differentiate yourself from the previous generation and also stake your claim to being a big star. So, and look, sometimes we all remember Cody when he first got to Ring of Honor in like 2016. Nobody was buying it, right? Like
Right.
sometimes it takes a little while for it to really click. So I'm willing to give him some time to settle into all of this if it doesn't really feel completely good yet.
Right. Right.
but
Yeah.
but the match will be good. And this is like another feud that has been going for 8 months. So hey, steel cage. Theoretically, that would mean that all of the other Don Callis guys and Don himself can't get involved. That's not how steel cages work in wrestling anymore, but it would be nice if these two could just have a wild, fun match and you have a decisive winner. But I assume there will be chicanery here as well. And maybe we'll get the next exciting chapter in whether or not Mark Davis is actually a heel or not.
It's one of two, is he actually a heel or not, storylines on this show after Wheeler Yuta teased breaking up with John Moxley on Dynamite this week. Wheeler could still come to Moxley's aid against the Radar Superstar Cup also. But Mark Davis, yeah, he was contractually obligated to join the Don Callis family, but then was gleefully um, busting heads in the Don Callis family there, and now conflicted once again. It's a complicated man with complicated emotions.
A complicated lower half of his body.
What?
What?
He's got some Nikolai Volkov underpants, man.
They're not quite bike shorts, but they go up to his navel and they extend past the part that normal wrestling short trunks usually go.
They are a full cut, high waisted brief.
Indeed. Anyway, Kyle Fletcher has a type, as we always say.
Yeah, you pointed out to me once that Nikolai Volkov, I was like, man, Nikolai Volkov, giant underpants. His trunks were like giant underpants. And you're like, not only were they giant and maroon, but also they were still somehow too small. I've never seen anything like it before or since. The closest I've seen is Mark Davis's high-waisted briefs.
You gotta get him a different palette. See if it reignites that Nikolai magic. Give him an evil Russian gimmick. We haven't had one of those in wrestling for a while.
No, and really the timing couldn't be better.
Absolutely.
Well, the timing was probably at its peak a couple of years ago. But on the pre-show, we're gonna have the Costco guy and Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe against Jonathan Television and the MXM collection. They'll probably add a couple more pre-show matches this Saturday on Collision or in the lead up on social media. But as of now, we know the Costco guy is going to team with Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe against the three comedy geeks.
Like this is fine and will be, super entertaining probably just because I like all these guys. Maybe not the Costco guy, but
sure.
I mean he's fine. He's fine for what it is.
He's all right. Yeah.
But like Orange, like after I guess it was after the December pay-per-view or whatever, they wrote him off TV, like he got destroyed by the Death Riders, and like his big comeback was just like having a wrestling match, which I guess it's Orange Cassidy, and so he would just nonchalantly show back up to work one week. But it is weird
Yeah.
that like we rushed him back to TV seemingly with not a lot for him to do, for him to be on the pre-show with the Costco guy. But hey, the YouTube clip of this match will probably get a lot of views, I guess. So um it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just we're like, wow, he was off TV for a long time. And then he just showed up to wrestle Takeshita, and now he's teaming with the Costco guys against the comedy goofs. But it's, yeah, I don't know. I just was like, oh, that's an interesting use of Orange Cassidy after he was briefly like your top baby face for 2 months last year.
My like the Costco guy, I don't really understand TikTok at all. But like I know the Costco guys are popular in a certain subsection of the internet, and he's one of the guys, the few people in this company that will do local media. So if like in exchange for doing local media, the tubby dad with the square head who talks about chocolate cookies and his chocolate chip cookies on his trunks, if he gets to do a pre-show match in exchange for doing all the local media, cool, man. Like I'm not a huge fan of the Costco guy, but I also he doesn't his presence here doesn't offend me. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it's fine. And one, it's on the pre-show, so like nobody has to watch it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's a six man. He's beating up you know, the male models and Jonathan Television. It's fine. That's what those guys are there to do. Like, is to get beat up and look like silly goofballs all the time. So that's fine. That's a fine use of those guys, and it's fine that this guy is on the pre-show a couple times a year.
All right. Well, we have a big weekend of wrestling as always coming up this weekend. Oh, New Japan Cup starting. Can't wait. Uh Yuji Nagata is going to challenge Hiroki Goto for the IWGP World Title.
All the grandpas getting a shot this year against Goto.
Why not? Hey, I think it's fired up their business a little bit.
Yeah, I think they did like their biggest crowd and wherever they were for the Tanahashi match in like 4 years or something. Like, hey, good for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, it's the building that I saw New Year Dash in the year that I went. It's like a little bit bigger than Kurikan Hall.
Mhm.
Kurikan Hall's a 1,800 or 2,000 seater, and the Otis City Gymnasium's like 4,000 or whatever. But yeah, good times. All right, Revolution this weekend. Enjoy, everybody. And until next time, I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
We'll be back soon. More stories from the wrestling life.
Bye bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, here are this week's bonus features.
Strange fellow, that Adrien Brody.
I mean, it's all anyone can talk about this week. It's like the guy has 2 Oscars, 20 years apart.
Yep.
No one has ever like spoken particularly highly of him as a person.
Nope.
I don't really know anything about his personal life. I don't know. Weird guy. Apparently, people didn't like his speech. I didn't see it. It was long.
Anyone at the Oscars complaining about the Oscars, I feel like deserves what they get.
Yeah, isn't that just kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah.
Like, I understand the idea is like, oh, you're trying to make it more palatable to like middle America, I guess.
Sure.
But it's like, I don't know. You're throwing a party for yourselves and giving each other little trophies.
Yes.
It's inherently a bit silly and a bit audacious and a bit ridiculous. Like, you don't like, just take it seriously. It's important. Obviously, it's important to you people, or you wouldn't be here.
Right.
This isn't the VMAs, you know?
Right.
So Like, fine, if you want to take it seriously, like by all means, have a song and dance man or a comedian host the show. You have it is a television production, but I'm like, yeah, the inherent need to be like self-aware that all award shows try to do now. It's like it's yuck. It's worse than if you just did all of this with sincerity.
Yeah, no argument there. Um, 10 years ago, they realized, hey, we got a problem. Uh, Not enough people are watching us give each other trophies. It's like we're gonna increase the number of motion pictures nominated from 5 to 10 or whatever it was. And maybe we'll try to make them some popular movies. And no. Still movies that most people haven't seen or don't see before they're nominated and may or may not see after they're nominated. So it's whatever, man. I have no real strong Oscar takes.
Yeah, no, like I said, in a different era, I would have compared the Oscars to like Dave Meltzer's star ratings.
Hmm.
Like, hey, if you hear about this thing through this medium, and that encourages you to seek out a film you would not have seen otherwise, great. And it's a guideline. It's a guideline. People seem to like this thing. They said it had the best acting of all the acting of the year. So maybe that means something to you, or at least piques your curiosity. Great, but it's not it's not the be all end all of what we do either, or it shouldn't be. But I don't know. I guess it's nice to get up and see whatever Jack Nicholson get rolled out to weekly clap for you, and it feels important for a day. I don't know.
I try to keep on keeping on.